Hi everyone, today we're going to take a look at Luminar AI for portrait post-production work. So like I said, in today's video we're going to take a look at using Luminar AI with portraits. Next week we'll take a look at using Luminar AI with landscape photography. And hey, don't forget the buttons down below. It would really help me out a lot if you like my channel, if you click the subscribe button, and if you like today's video, give me a thumbs up on that thumbs up button for a like. I'd appreciate it. Let's dig right in. Some of the things I'd like to see in Luminar AI, which currently aren't in there. So Luminar, if you're listening, this is a portrait of me. I'd really like to have a gray hair removal that I could actually change my hair to whatever color I want it to be, right? And maybe a face unfattener, possibly. I mean, that would be really useful as well. So I'm sure there are quite a few of us out there that would agree that we could actually use features like that, which I'm sure somebody at Luminar must surely be working on right now. But what I'm going to do for this demo is I'm just going to use Luminar AI. This photograph here was used for a business portrait. This is how it was shot. So we're starting from scratch and not from what I imported in from Lightroom. Whenever you first come in here and you open up your portrait down below, you're going to end up with this template. This is where you end up starting at these templates. Basically, these along the top here are the templates that Luminar thinks thinks might work for this photograph. If you want to, you can click on these and come down through here and select one of these portraits, and so it will do this. And it will go ahead and apply whatever settings it has in there. If we pop back out to portraits, we can go back into like monochrome, and we can select from a variety of different templates. And then down here at the bottom, we can go back, and as you can see, as we slide this down, it basically dulls the effect of the template, where all the way up is the full effect, all the way down is no effect. Those are the templates, and they're pretty self-explanatory. Now, you will notice whenever I first came in here and I set this template, these three dots down here at the bottom appeared. And you're going to see this throughout Luminar. And basically what this is for here, we can basically reset the adjustments. And it will go ahead and clear everything. If I come back and then I select another template, and I do this, well, now you can see it's appeared again. And before it wasn't there, but now it's appeared, and I can go back and reset adjustments. It clears it all out, and those selections go away. If I came in here and I selected a template, or I had settings, and we're going to show this in the edit as well, and you come back down here, and let's say we dull this down, and we like this, right? Well, we can come back in here and edit this template. And we'll show you too, whenever you go into edit, once you make all your edits, if you're going to use those edits for other photographs, you can come down in here and save that. Let's clear these out. So we're starting all from fresh, and we're going to pop over to edit. You have your base tools up here at the top whenever you come into edit. And as you go down your tool selection, I mean, you have your essentials, and then you hit your creative options. You also have your portrait options, which we're going to be using, and your professional options, which are a little bit more in depth. So on this particular portrait, if I wanted to, I could come in here to Enhance AI. And if I click on Enhance AI, what happens is Luminar is identifying the darkened spaces behind this portrait, this individual on the portrait. And as I move this up, it will go through and basically balance out the light, add contrast, do all the things it does. As you can see here, if I was doing a landscape, I would have the sky enhancer, but it can determine that there's no sky in this picture, so it's disabled that. So that's the benefit of the artificial intelligence in Luminar, is it is going through and identifying different sections of the picture that it should apply the settings to, which should make your editing a lot faster. That's what I generally find. I can get very similar effects in Lightroom, and I still do like Lightroom a lot. I can basically get effects faster inside of Luminar and do my post-production on some photographs in Luminar a lot faster than I can in Lightroom, which saves me time. And if I'm doing any like really crazy edits in landscapes, Luminar really does a really good job for that kind of stuff. So up here at the top though, if I wanted to turn this effect, so I've basically cranked this up. If I wanted to see what I just changed, I can flip this effect off and flip it back on. And I can see what it's doing. These are masks. We're not going to look at masks in this video. We're just using Luminar and taking advantage of the AI, but it does have masked options, and I'll cover that in another video. If I wanted to reset the tool, I just click reset the tool and it moves everything back. On these sliders, what I like to do is I'll run it all the way up, see what it does. What is it impacting? And go back and forth. And then I don't even look at the slider. You want to look at the picture and see what makes this picture look good and stop. So here it's like 42. So just move it back and forth, but focus on the picture. Don't focus on the slider, because then you're just focusing on a number when really what you're looking for is what is the optical effect on your photograph. Okay, so composition AI, this, okay, so I'd already had this. If I turn this off, right, this is what it starts out. Now I can either go through like I do on Photoshop and resize the image, or I can click on this composition AI. And the composition AI will go through and give you a suggested crop. And so, I'm not going to use the suggested crop, though. I'm going to kind of go back just for this demo to show you what I want to see the whole picture. Let's go down to the portrait AI and open up face AI. And so I'm going to back out of this. There we go. So I want to use face light. And what face light is going to do is it's going to, so if the faces were dark or whatever, so I can crank this way up and I can go way down. Well, see, look, Luminar is able to determine where the face is located in the photograph. Apply the settings. So I like that kind of, it's probably a little too high. Slim face. So you can say, well, we want to slim the face down, right? Like this, but that looks really ridiculous, right? Slim face is for if you're using like wide angle lenses or things like that and the face becomes slightly distorted, you're able to fix that distortion. You could use it to make somebody look a little skinnier, but that's not, I'm not going to use it like that. Now let's check out face light. We've got this versus that. So makes that pop really well. Let's go into eyes. So in Luminar, we're able to change the subject's eyes. We can come into the original as blue. We have a list of colors that we can choose from: blue, brown, green, gray, etc. So we can shift the subject's eyes to brown. We can make them hazel. And of course, we're going to adjust this if we need to make them look more blended in. We can also change them to cat eyes. Let's zoom in just a bit so you can see that. So you can see they have like the vertical pupil. Suppose that would be, you would use something like this if you were doing a commercial kind of shoot and you had a color palette that you wanted to use, and maybe your subject's eyes didn't meet that color palette, or you just want to do a gee whizzy kind of thing, or somebody wants to see their eyes as a different color. If we push this back down, we have the iris enhancer. Let's zoom in on the eyes and see what this is doing. I can add some iris flare. And if you look, iris flare, what it's doing is it's adding light to the bottom of the iris. So I can crank it way up, right, so you can see where the effect's actually happening. I don't want anything near that strong. Probably down in there, maybe a little less, somewhere in there. So I can enlarge the eyes, right? So if you have somebody who's squinting or whatever, I can run this high enlarger, bring the eyes out a little more. I'm not really going to do that on this photograph, maybe a 4 or 5. Eye whitening. Let's slide this all the way over so you can see what it's doing. We don't want quite that much. Maybe in there. The eye enhancer goes through and you can see it's lightening the iris again. So we're going to bring this down into here. We also have red eye removal down here on the bottom. The subject doesn't have red eyes, so we don't need to apply red eye removal to this photograph. So, dark circle removals, this section underneath the eye, this is going to brighten that. So you can kind of see on there what it's doing. Look at this section right down in through here and right down in through here. This makes that lighter. That's all the way up. So you can kind of see that impact there. So we're going to leave that up. Now improve eyebrows. So I'll focus along this section up here. If I crank this up, it's just darkening the eyebrows. Some people might like that. Some people might not like that. So we used to call in Photoshop putting on makeup. So I can bring that up a little bit to make the eyebrows more prominent. If we come down here, we have the mouth. So let's go down here. Lip saturation is basically just what it says. It's going to increase the saturation around on the lip. Don't really like it on this particular portrait because you can see there's like this orange tint through here. But we can increase the red on the lips, right? So this is a professional portrait though, so we're not going to do anything that drastic. So we just want to add a little bit more redness, but not a lot, just enough to make it look good, but not too much. So there's also lips darkening. As you can see, what it's doing is it's darkening this section down here. I can bring that up a little bit, probably not too much. Teeth whitening. We can bring this up and you can see what it does here. If you look, so these tools aren't always perfect, right? There's a shadow that's cast over here, and so this one tooth we're going to have to go back out and fix in Lightroom, but the rest of it looks great. I can apply as much or as little as I want. I find, generally speaking, in these sorts of edits, you don't want to go too overboard. So let's go back out and look at the entire picture again. So this is what we've got, and this is where we started. So as you can see, I mean, that's a huge difference. I think I've got the eyes up too far. Going to bring those back down just a hair. But I do like that. So that is a huge improvement over what we had shot and where we're at now. As you can see, I've got this split tool, the before and after, which I find really useful. I mean, this is what we had before, this is what we had after. If I want to have it split down the middle to kind of compare, I can do that. And then once again, if I wanted to reset the whole thing, I would just come down here and reset. If I was going to save this out as another template that I could use, I would just click here as save. And it saves it as my template. I would go back and I would be able to apply these settings. And the cool thing is I can apply these eye settings and teeth and everything, and it will go through the photograph that you have, the portrait that you're putting in here, and it will apply these settings. So it really streamlines your post-production. Now let's continue on. So we have the skin. And let's zoom back in because this is pretty nice. So normally in portraits, we go through and soften the skin, remove any blemishes we don't want to have in the portrait. Think of portraits more as like the old paintings that people used to do. It was a likeness of the person. It wasn't a complete carbon copy of the person. It was them how they want it to appear. And with photography, we're doing the same thing. We're taking a picture and we're making somebody appear as they want to appear. What we're going to do with this skin thing, as you can see, as I crank this up, what it does is it goes through and applies the softening to the skin, and it does remove some of the blemishes. If I crank this all the way up, you can see, let's start. You can see over here, so like the freckle here, they start to fade out as you increase this. If I crank this all the way up, yeah, so you can see that's faded out. So let's not go too over. Now I got to tell you, whenever I crank this up to 100%, it's applying a lot of skin softening, but it's not like it's gone completely overboard, which is really nice. So, but we're going to bring that down into this area here. And then we have shine removal, which, so focus right here where we have the light on reflecting off the skin. We are just going to dull that down. So if we do the before and after, if I turn that off, that's what we had before we applied the skin effects and what we have after. So that looks really good. And we can turn the skin defects removal on. Now, body AI, if we had body and we wanted to change the shape, we could do it in here. We don't have that in here. This is just straight portrait. High key. If we crank this up, this is what it's doing. It's basically taking taking a lot of the saturation out of the picture, applying it's applying more light to the back. Not really what I'm after on this picture, so not going to do this. Now let's go back. So if we've made the effects on the skin and the eyes and everything, so let's see where we're at right now. This is where we started and this is where we are. So we've done a really great job on the portrait. Haven't had to use any masks, haven't had to do anything. We haven't really even spent a lot of time going through and fixing this and doing our post-production. Here is one of the tools I love in Luminar that works so well, is the erase tool. Let's go up here and zoom in, and we have some smile lines that come off of here. And let's say we wanted to get rid of these. I've got my brush. Let's make it just a hair bit bigger, and I can run it down. There, and I can say erase. Now if we did this in Lightroom, what Lightroom would do is it would go to another spot in the picture and then make a copy of it down here, right? What Luminar is doing is it's looking at the surrounding textures and then applying them over top of the image, right? Which in my opinion, it works better for the most part. There's sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you do just want to take a copy and move it, but probably 80% of the time, I don't really want to do that. I just want it to make this section go away and have it blend in with everything that surrounds it. And that's what Luminar is doing. So let's grab this down here and run it to right here. Click erase. See, it does a beautiful job there. So let's go and really be brave and see if I can go in here and monkey with this. I'm not sure if this is going to work so well, but let's give it a shot. Let's click erase. Keeping in mind we're really zoomed in on this photograph right now, so I can get away with a little fudge in here because you're probably not going to be able to see. Now I don't like how that came out. So what we're going to do try to get that out. Let's zoom back out and see what that looks like at a real distance. So, you know what? To me, that is not too bad. That's acceptable. It's better than it was before. So I'm going to stick with that. Word of warning. Now, Luminar will work with a lower NPC, but you will end up waiting around a lot. Just be aware. So let's go back in with this erase tool. And do I want to do any more? Yeah, I probably want to take out this line right here. Since I'm doing so well at lines, I might as well go ahead and knock another one out. Yep, happy with that. Now let's make the brush a little bigger. Erase that out. Let's grab a whole lot of this right here. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Now I can come back up to enhance. If I want the background more lightened, let's give this a second to apply. Okay, so whenever I was making those changes, I went back and checked my machine. So I'm running at like 80% CPU, 17 gigs of RAM. Why this, and Luminar is still processing this last change on my machine. Now you can tell when Luminar is actually thinking and doing its thing, because up here this is flashing and going across, which means Luminar is thinking. There we go. So if we brought that all the way back down, but I want to bring that background in just a little bit. I've got some good bokeh on there, so I'm not too worried about anything that's in the background that's going to be distracting. So I'm just going to lighten that. I mean, I could bring it down and darken it, but I'm just going to leave it like it is. Now we have the vignette option. So if you wanted to add a vignette, we would choose the subject. We would click on choose the subject. So what I'm doing is if I go this way, I get a light vignette around. And if I go this way, I get a dark vignette around. And I can adjust how much vignetting I want if I want to do that. If I crank this all the way up, let's go to white so it's easier for you to see. I can also increase or decrease the size. So I'm pushing it back, I'm bringing it in. If I need to choose a subject area and move it around, maybe whoops, not what I want. I want to move the subject up to here or down to here. That will change the vignette around if I'm applying that. So if I wanted to darken that down, I would do something like that. And if I wanted to bring the size in, I would do that. That adds a vignette to my portrait. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, whenever I'm finished, to go ahead and export, we just click on export up here at the top. And we can save to disk or a couple other options. We're just going to save it out. Our options are to save it as a JPEG, a PNG, a TIFF, or I can save it as a Photoshop file. So we got a couple different options here with the quality and all those kind of things that we normally expect to see whenever we're exporting photographs. All right, well, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please click the like and subscribe down below. That would help me out a lot on these this on my channel, and I would appreciate that. I look forward to seeing you next week. I think next week we will actually look at Luminar AI and how we would use it with landscape photography. Anyway, thanks. I'll talk to you later. Bye.